Alien girl was overheating and sweating, so the human helped the alien girl remove layers. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story and meet our main character. Commander John Carter stood at the edge of the ship's control deck, looking out into the vast, starry expanse of space. It had been a long day, and as the temperature fluctuated inside the spacecraft, John could feel his own body temperature rising. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, his eyes still focused on the view of the distant planet they were approaching. This was his job, keeping the crew safe while they conducted their research missions on uncharted planets. It wasn't glamorous, but someone had to do it. Today, however, something felt different. A soft, almost imperceptible hum vibrated through the walls of the ship. John raised an eyebrow and quickly tapped his communication panel. Commander Carter to Dr. Zara, come in. The response was quick, almost immediate. Yes, Commander. Dr. Zara's voice came through the speaker. She was the ship's lead scientist, and like most of the crew, she wasn't human. Zara was a tall, striking alien from a distant system, her skin a beautiful shade of emerald green, her eyes a vibrant violet that seemed to glow faintly in the dim lights of the ship. She was brilliant, but there were moments when her alien biology didn't quite mesh with the human design systems aboard the ship. I'm reading unusually high temperatures from your quarters. Is everything all right? John asked, his voice filled with a hint of concern. A pause followed, and when Zara finally responded, her tone was tinged with slight discomfort. I believe I'm overheating, Commander. My body is reacting poorly to the ship's environmental settings. I am sweating excessively. John frowned. Zara's species had unique physiological needs, and their biology didn't always sync well with Earth-based technology. This wasn't the first time they'd had issues. I'll be there in a minute. Stay where you are. He quickly left the control deck and made his way through the corridors, his boots echoing softly as he walked. The ship's cooling system wasn't designed for the heat tolerance of alien physiology, and while John had always done his best to accommodate, Zara's discomfort was more serious than he realized. When he reached her quarters, he found Zara standing by a small ventilation unit, her face flushed, beads of sweat running down her green skin. Her tight-fitting outfit, designed to regulate body temperature, seemed to be doing little to help. She looked up as John entered, her violet eyes narrowing slightly in embarrassment. Commander, I am not used to this. I'm not sure what to do, she said, her voice soft and hesitant. John stepped forward, his concern growing. Don't worry, Zara. I'm here to help. Without hesitation, he began adjusting the settings on the control panel near her, trying to get the temperature down to a more comfortable level. But he could see the heat was still getting to her. Zara shifted uncomfortably, tugging at the layers of her outfit. The fabric clung to her skin, her discomfort evident. I need to remove some layers, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. John nodded. I understand. Go ahead. Zara's body language shifted, and she began unfastening her outer layers of clothing. The heat was causing her discomfort, and as she removed one layer after another, the room seemed to cool slightly, though John could still feel the heat radiating off her. As Zara removed her final layer, she paused, her back turned toward him, her face slightly flushed with embarrassment. John, ever the professional, made sure to keep his eyes focused elsewhere, giving her the privacy she needed. Zara let out a relieved sigh as the cool air hit her skin, and John could see her posture relaxing. Is that better? He asked, his voice calm. Zara nodded, her breathing slowing. Yes, thank you, Commander. I'm feeling much better now. John gave her a reassuring smile. No problem. If you need anything else, just let me know. As the tension in the room eased, John couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in being able to help. Even though Zara was from another world, they had forged a mutual respect over the months they had worked together. It wasn't always easy, but moments like these reminded him that, despite their differences, they were all just people trying to do their jobs and survive. You're welcome, Zara. Just be sure to let me know if you need adjustments again. Your comfort is important. Zara gave him a grateful smile, before she picked up the layers of her clothing and began folding them neatly. "I will, Commander. Thank you again." With that, John turned and walked out of her quarters, leaving her to relax and cool down. As he stepped back into the corridor, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. There was still much to do, but for now, he had helped someone who needed it, and that was enough. John walked down the corridor of the spacecraft, his mind still on the scene in Zara's quarters. He had always known that their mission was going to be filled with challenges, but it was moments like these that reminded him how truly unique working alongside alien species could be. The ship hummed gently around him, a low vibration beneath his boots as he made his way toward the briefing room. Zara's discomfort was still fresh in his mind, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he had to do more to help her. She had only been on Earth for a few months, and despite her impressive scientific knowledge, her alien physiology was still proving difficult to accommodate. Zara, the brilliant scientist with vibrant violet eyes and skin like shimmering emerald, had always been a mystery to him. But now, seeing her vulnerable, struggling with something as basic as heat exhaustion, he realized that even the strongest beings had their limits. John entered the briefing room, where the rest of the crew was already gathered. The team was made up of people from various backgrounds, engineers, scientists, medics, but they all shared one thing in common. They were all here for the same purpose: to explore the uncharted corners of the galaxy. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of the ship's systems, and John took his seat at the table. His thoughts kept drifting back to Zara. He had seen her in control of everything before. She had a sharp mind, always quick to analyze and problem solve. But today, seeing her uncharacteristically vulnerable, had shaken him in ways he didn't expect. As the meeting began, the rest of the crew discussed the upcoming mission, scanning the atmosphere of a newly discovered planet in a nearby system. The planet's weather patterns were chaotic, and they needed to determine if it was suitable for a longer-term research base. But John's mind wasn't fully on the task at hand. His thoughts kept returning to Zara. He had learned in his years of service that there were always unknown variables when working with alien species, but nothing quite like this. He didn't know much about her background, aside from what little she had shared with him over the months. She was an esteemed scientist from a far-off planet, sent to assist Earth's space program in exchange for their cooperation in scientific research. The two had developed a mutual respect over time, but moments like today revealed the deeper complexities of their relationship. Zara's species was not like humans. Her physiology was designed to withstand environments far harsher than anything Earth could offer. Yet, here she was, vulnerable to something as simple as heat. As the meeting came to an end, John excused himself, feeling the weight of his thoughts pressing on him. He decided to check on Zara again, just to make sure she was feeling better. She was the last person he expected to be vulnerable, and that realization had left him unsettled. He knocked softly on her quarters before entering. Zara was sitting by the ventilation unit again, her outfit now more relaxed as she let the cool air wash over her. She looked up at him, a slight smile on her face, though there was still a trace of unease in her violet eyes. "Commander," she said, her voice warm but tired. "Thank you for earlier. I'm doing much better now." John smiled back, though his concern hadn't quite disappeared. "No problem, Zara. I'm just glad you're feeling better. You shouldn't have to deal with that on your own." Zara looked at him, her expression softening. "I'm not used to needing help," she admitted. "Back on my planet, I was always the one helping others. It's strange to be the one receiving it." John nodded, understanding more than she realized. "Sometimes, even the strongest need help. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you human," he said, his voice firm but gentle. Zara seemed to consider his words for a moment, before giving him a small, appreciative nod. "You're right. Thank you, Commander." John's smile widened. "Anytime, Zara. You're part of this crew, and we all look out for each other." As he turned to leave, he felt a sense of pride swell within him. It wasn't just the mission that mattered. It was the bond they were forming, one built on trust, respect, and the willingness to help one another, no matter what. Outside her quarters, John paused for a moment, looking out at the stars through the viewport. It had been a long day, and the journey ahead would surely bring new challenges. But for now, he felt a quiet reassurance. The team was ready, and so was he. The next few days aboard the ship passed by in a blur of activity. The crew had settled into their routines, conducting tests on various planets and preparing for the mission ahead. Commander John Carter found himself working closely with Zara, the brilliant alien scientist, more than ever before. Despite their initial differences, they had developed a mutual respect for one another. John often found himself admiring Zara's quick thinking and expertise, but there was something else that had started to stir within him, something deeper. Zara had always been reserved, her cool, analytical nature sometimes keeping her at a distance. But lately, she seemed more at ease around him. The tension that had once lingered between them had begun to dissipate, and John found himself enjoying their conversations, both about their work and personal matters. As they walked through the ship one evening after a successful scan of a distant planet, John couldn't help but notice how Zara's violet eyes shimmered in the soft lighting, how her graceful movements left a subtle trail in the air. "So, what do you think about the planet we just scanned?" John asked, trying to keep the conversation casual, though he couldn't deny the way his heart rate picked up when Zara's gaze met his. Zara gave him a thoughtful look before responding. "The atmosphere is unstable, but with the right equipment, we could establish a research station there. The weather is unpredictable, but nothing Earth's technology can't handle." She paused, her lips curving into a faint smile. "I trust your team will be up for the challenge." John couldn't help but smile back. "We've been through worse. A little rough weather won't stop us." Their eyes met for a moment longer than usual, and John felt a subtle shift in the air between them. It was almost as if they were both aware of the growing bond between them, but neither was quite ready to acknowledge it. "I hope you're right," Zara said softly, her voice holding a quiet sincerity. The ship's announcement system interrupted their moment. "Attention, all crew members. We will be entering the proximity of the planet's orbit in 30 minutes. Please report to your assigned stations for final preparations." Zara gave a quick nod, her professional demeanor quickly returning. "I'll meet you in the lab, Commander." John watched her walk away, the soft sound of her footsteps echoing in the hallway. As he made his way to the control deck, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between them. He had always known their partnership was essential to the success of the mission, but now, it felt like something more, something unspoken, yet undeniably present. That night, as John lay in his quarters, his mind raced with thoughts of Zara. He knew he had to focus on the mission, but his thoughts kept drifting back to her. There was a quiet strength about her, a resilience that mirrored his own. Yet, beneath that strength, John could see a vulnerability, one that he hadn't fully understood until now. He had always seen her as a brilliant scientist, but now he found himself thinking of her as something more, someone who had become an integral part of his life. The next day, as they prepared for their descent to the planet, John and Zara exchanged a few words before heading off to their respective stations. There was a subtle change in the way they spoke, a new level of understanding between them that hadn't been there before. As the ship entered the atmosphere, the crew worked in sync, their movements smooth and efficient. John couldn't help but glance at Zara as she worked alongside him, her focus unwavering. She was a woman of few words, but her actions spoke volumes. It was clear to him now that she had become more than just a colleague. She had become someone he truly respected, and perhaps even cared for. As the mission progressed and the crew worked tirelessly to establish the research station, John and Zara continued to work together, their partnership growing stronger with each passing day. They had crossed boundaries, both professional and personal, and though neither of them had voiced it aloud, the bond between them had become undeniable. As they stood together on the surface of the newly charted planet, the wind whipping through their hair, John couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what they had accomplished together. The days on the planet's surface were long and filled with new discoveries. John and Zara, along with the rest of the crew, worked tirelessly to establish the research station. The planet was unlike anything they had encountered before. Its atmosphere was rich in minerals, and the wildlife, though mostly non-aggressive, held an eerie sense of mystery. The days were filled with rigorous testing and surveys, but during the quieter moments, John found himself more and more drawn to Zara. Her focus was unmatched, but there was a part of her that seemed to open up around him. Their conversations had moved beyond work and started touching on their lives back home. Zara, for all her brilliance and strength, had a side of her that she rarely shared with others, a side that was, surprisingly, not so different from his own. One evening, as they sat outside the newly built station, the sounds of the alien planet filling the air, Zara looked over at John. The sun was setting behind them, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. "You know," she began, her voice thoughtful, "I never imagined I would be so far from my home. My planet, my people. Sometimes I miss it more than I care to admit." John glanced at her, noticing the way her usually composed demeanor had softened. "I get that," he said, his voice low. "Earth can feel small sometimes. But there's something about being out here, on a planet like this, that makes you realize how much we don't know. It makes you appreciate things back home, even more." Zara nodded, her eyes gazing into the distance. "It's strange, isn't it? The more we discover, the more we realize how little we actually understand." John chuckled softly. "That's the beauty of it, though. There's always something new to learn." A silence fell between them, comfortable yet charged with an unspoken understanding. Zara looked at him, her violet eyes catching the light of the setting sun. "I think I'm starting to understand you, John. Maybe I never truly did before. I've worked with so many people, but none of them have made me feel like this." John's heart skipped a beat. He had always admired Zara's intellect, her strength, but now there was something else in her gaze, something deeper. He didn't know what it was, but it was undeniable. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice quiet. Zara took a deep breath, her expression serious. "You're not like the others. You're not just focused on the mission. You understand people. You understand me." The words hung in the air for a moment, and for the first time, John felt the walls he had kept up around himself start to crumble. "Zara, He was cut off by a sudden alarm blaring through the station, a high-pitched warning that echoed through the quiet evening. Both of them jumped to their feet, instantly shifting into professional mode. "What is it?" John asked, his voice sharp as he quickly tapped into the station's system. Zara's fingers flew across the panel, her eyes scanning the data. "It's a power fluctuation," she said quickly. "The generators are failing. We need to stabilize them before the whole station goes down." Without another word, they rushed into action, working side by side to restore the power and ensure the safety of the station. The adrenaline surged through John's body as he and Zara moved with synchronized precision, their partnership stronger than ever. As they finished securing the station's core systems, the silence returned, but now it felt different. The air between them was still charged, but it wasn't just the tension of the emergency. It was something else, something unspoken. Zara glanced at John, her expression softer now. "We did it," she said, her voice quiet but filled with gratitude. John nodded, his eyes meeting hers. "Yeah, we did. You were amazing, Zara." She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "So were you, John. I couldn't have done it without you." There it was again, that connection between them. It wasn't just a professional bond anymore. It was something deeper, something that had been growing since the moment they had first met. John realized that, for the first time in a long while, he wasn't alone. Zara was right there with him, every step of the way. As they stood together, looking out at the alien horizon, John couldn't help but feel that this journey was just beginning. Not just for the mission, but for something more. Something between them. Something that neither of them could ignore anymore. The weeks that followed the power surge incident were filled with challenges. The research station was now fully operational, but it was clear that both the crew and the alien environment were pushing their limits. John and Zara continued to work closely, their partnership growing stronger as the days went by. Zara's expertise was invaluable, and John found himself increasingly impressed with her resilience, not just as a scientist, but as a person. They spent long hours analyzing the planet's soil samples, studying the atmospheric patterns, and making calculations for future expeditions. Yet, it wasn't all work. During moments of respite, when the rest of the crew was off duty, John and Zara would talk, often about things beyond their mission. Their conversations ranged from Earth's history to Zara's memories of her distant home planet. Zara, for the first time since arriving, spoke openly about her past, her family, and the things she missed most. John listened intently, captivated by the way she shared pieces of herself that she rarely showed. One evening, as they stood in the observation deck of the station, looking out at the stars, Zara leaned against the window, her gaze distant. "You know," she said softly, "back on my planet, we didn't have places like this. The stars were so much closer, and everything was simpler. We didn't have to worry about all the technology. We just lived. John turned to her, surprised by the vulnerability in her voice. That sounds beautiful, he said. I think there's something to be said about simplicity. We get so caught up in our technology, we forget to appreciate the small things. Zara nodded, her violet eyes reflecting the distant stars. Exactly. I sometimes wonder if we've advanced too much. We've built these huge civilizations, but I think we've lost touch with something essential. There was a long pause before John spoke again, his voice gentle. What do you think we've lost? Zara didn't answer right away. She seemed to be thinking it over, the silence between them stretching longer. Finally, she spoke. I think we've lost the ability to just be. To be with each other, without all the distractions. Sometimes I think about what it would be like to just exist without all the pressure. John's heart skipped a beat. He understood what she meant. The weight of the mission, the endless calculations, the expectations, it all often felt overwhelming. I think that's what draws me to you, Zara, John said, his voice a little quieter now. Your ability to see things differently. You remind me of what really matters. Zara looked at him, her eyes softening. I never realized how much I needed to hear that. John took a step closer to her, the air between them charged with something more than just friendship. But before either of them could speak, the station's intercom crackled to life, breaking the moment. Commander Carter, Dr. Zara, we've detected a disturbance in the planet's atmosphere. Please report to the control deck immediately. The urgency in the voice snapped them both back to reality. Looks like duty calls, John said, giving Zara a small, understanding smile. Zara nodded, her expression shifting back to professional. Let's get to work. As they hurried to the control deck, the weight of the moment hung in the air. John couldn't help but feel that their bond had deepened. They had shared something important, and though they didn't speak of it, he knew it was there, unspoken, but undeniable. The mission, the planet, and the dangers they would face all lay ahead of them. But John knew one thing for sure. Whatever happened, they were in this together. And that, more than anything, gave him hope. The control deck buzzed with activity as the crew scrambled to address the atmospheric disturbance detected on the planet's surface. John and Zara arrived at the control station, where the rest of the team was already working to analyze the data. The tension in the room was palpable as everyone worked quickly to identify the source of the anomaly. Zara immediately moved to one of the terminals, her fingers flying across the keyboard. It's coming from the southern hemisphere of the planet, she said, her voice calm but focused. There's a massive energy fluctuation. It could be some kind of natural phenomenon, but we need to be sure. John nodded, stepping beside her as he looked over the data. We've been expecting unpredictable weather patterns, but this looks different. Let's get a team ready to investigate on the ground. Zara glanced at him, her eyes narrowing slightly as she processed the data. I agree, but we'll need to prepare for the worst. If this is an energy surge of some kind, we could face interference with our equipment. John turned to the rest of the crew, giving them their instructions. Start prepping for a surface mission. Zara and I will lead the team. Get the necessary gear, and make sure we're ready for any environmental factors we might face. The crew immediately got to work, gathering equipment and preparing their suits for the hazardous conditions they might encounter. Zara and John exchanged a look, both aware of the potential dangers that lay ahead. As they suited up and prepared for the mission, the air between them was charged with a sense of purpose. They had been through challenges before, but this one felt different. They were heading into unknown territory, and the stakes were higher than ever. The moment they stepped onto the planet's surface, the temperature immediately dropped, and the wind howled around them, carrying dust and debris. The landscape was desolate, with jagged rocks and deep fissures stretching across the terrain. Zara adjusted her helmet, her violet eyes scanning the horizon. Stay close. We don't know what kind of interference we're dealing with, she said, her tone authoritative but calm. John nodded, ensuring that the rest of the team was keeping pace. The group moved steadily through the rocky terrain, the harsh wind biting at their suits as they approached the epicenter of the disturbance. As they neared the area where the energy surge had been detected, the air felt heavier, charged with an almost electric intensity. John could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand up as a strange humming sound filled the air. What is that? He muttered, his voice barely audible over the wind. Zara paused, her eyes narrowing as she studied the surroundings. It's coming from below us, she said, pointing to the ground. There's something buried beneath the surface. We need to find the source. The team worked together to analyze the readings, using their tools to dig into the rocky ground. After several tense moments, they uncovered an ancient-looking device, its surface cracked and covered in alien symbols. Zara crouched down beside it, her fingers gently brushing the surface. "This is unexpected," she said, her voice filled with awe. "This technology is far more advanced than anything we've encountered." John crouched beside her, studying the device. "Could it be a power source?" Zara nodded slowly. "It's possible, but it's unlike anything we've ever seen. This could be what's causing the energy fluctuations we detected." The team carefully examined the device, their focus entirely on the task at hand. John and Zara worked in sync, analyzing the device's structure and trying to decipher the alien symbols that covered it. As they worked, Zara glanced up at John, her violet eyes locking with his. There was a moment of quiet understanding between them, an unspoken connection that had deepened over the past few weeks. Despite the chaos around them, they were in this together, partners in both the mission and in something more that neither had fully acknowledged. After several tense minutes, Zara finally spoke. "I think I can stabilize it, but we'll need to be careful. If we're wrong, this could cause a catastrophic chain reaction." John nodded, his expression serious. "Do it. We don't have a choice." Zara carefully initiated the process, her hands moving with precision as she worked to deactivate the device. The humming sound grew louder for a moment before it slowly began to fade. John watched her closely, his heart pounding in his chest. This was the moment that could change everything, but he had complete trust in Zara's abilities. After what felt like an eternity, Zara stood up, wiping the sweat from her brow as the device powered down completely. "It's safe," she said, her voice filled with relief. John let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "You did it. We did it." Zara gave him a small smile, her expression softening. "We make a good team." As they stood together in the alien landscape, John couldn't help but feel that, despite the dangers they faced, there was nowhere else he'd rather be than by her side. The days following the successful deactivation of the alien device were marked by a sense of quiet triumph. The crew of the research station worked hard to finish their analysis and to prepare for the next steps in their mission. John and Zara had spent long hours together in the lab, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. The tension between them had dissipated, replaced by a mutual understanding and respect that neither of them had expected when they first set out. Zara had always been focused, her mind consumed by the intricacies of their work, but John had begun to notice the subtle changes in her demeanor. She was more relaxed around him now, her smiles more frequent, her laughter lighter. It was during one of these late-night sessions that they found themselves alone in the lab, the rest of the crew having retreated to their quarters for the night. Zara sat at the desk, her eyes fixed on the screen as she analyzed data from the device they had deactivated. John watched her for a moment, a feeling he couldn't quite place stirring in his chest. He had always admired her intellect, but now, it was something more. "You're quiet tonight," Zara said, breaking the silence without looking up from her work. "Everything okay?" John hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, just thinking." Zara finally looked up, her violet eyes meeting his. There was something in her gaze that made his heart skip a beat. "About what?" she asked, her voice soft. "About how much has changed," John said, his voice barely above a whisper. "How everything feels different now." Zara tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "Different good or different bad?" "Different good," John said, his smile faint but genuine. "I didn't expect any of this. I didn't expect to be here with you like this." Zara's gaze softened, her lips curving into a small smile. "I didn't expect it either, but I'm glad it happened." They stood there for a moment, the weight of the unspoken words hanging in the air between them. John felt his pulse quicken as he stepped closer to her, unable to ignore the pull he felt toward her. Zara's breath caught as their eyes locked, the space between them growing smaller with each passing second. The door to the lab suddenly opened, and one of the crew members entered, breaking the tension. "Commander, Dr. Zara," the crew member said, a note of urgency in their voice. "We've got an issue with the communication systems. You need to see this." John and Zara exchanged a quick look before nodding and following the crew member to the control deck. The moment was broken, but the connection between them lingered. As they worked to resolve the issue with the communication systems, John found his thoughts drifting back to the moment in the lab. There was something about Zara that had shifted in him, something that had become undeniable. It wasn't just the mission or the work they had done together, it was her. He had never expected to feel this way about someone from another world. But now, he couldn't imagine his life without her in it. Zara was no longer just a colleague, no longer just a brilliant scientist who had been sent to assist Earth's space program. She had become something more to him, someone he couldn't ignore, even if he tried. The rest of the mission played out as planned, but John found it harder to focus on anything other than the thoughts that kept resurfacing. Zara, with her sharp intellect and quiet strength, had a way of making him feel more than he had ever felt before. They continued to work together, side by side, their bond strengthening with every challenge they faced. And though neither of them spoke the words aloud, they both knew that something had changed between them. As the days passed and the mission drew closer to its end, John found himself looking forward to their quiet moments together, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together. And, perhaps, that was the greatest discovery of all. The following days aboard the research station were filled with routine and a quiet sense of accomplishment. John and Zara continued to work side by side, analyzing data from the planet's surface and preparing their reports. The station's systems were running smoothly, and the crew had adjusted to the alien environment, though the planet still held many mysteries. As the sun set on another day, John found himself in the observation room, gazing out at the stars. The quiet hum of the station and the soft clicking of keyboards in the background created a peaceful atmosphere. He hadn't realized how much he had come to rely on these moments, moments of solitude and reflection, until now. "I thought I might find you here," Zara's voice broke through his thoughts. He turned to see her standing in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the dimming light from the observation window. She looked serene, but there was something in her eyes that hinted at the weight of their shared experiences. "Couldn't sleep," John admitted, offering a small smile. "Just thinking about everything." Zara stepped into the room, her presence filling the space between them. "About the mission?" she asked, her voice soft but curious. John nodded. "Yeah, but also about everything else. About us." Zara raised an eyebrow, her violet eyes locking with his. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," he said, turning away from the window to face her. "It's just, since we've been here, everything feels different. It's like I've been so focused on the mission, on the work, that I didn't realize how much I've changed. How much I've started relying on you." Zara's expression softened, her lips curving into a gentle smile. "I feel the same way," she admitted, stepping closer to him. "I didn't expect to form such a bond with someone from Earth. But now it feels natural." There was a pause between them, the weight of their words lingering in the air. John took a deep breath, his chest tightening with the realization that, despite everything, he had found something meaningful in this alien world, someone who made him feel understood. "Zara," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I don't know what this is between us, but I can't ignore it anymore. And I don't want to." Zara reached out, her hand brushing lightly against his. "You don't have to ignore it," she said, her voice low. "I feel the same way. But we've been so focused on the mission, on our roles, that I don't think either of us really had the time to acknowledge it." John stepped closer to her, their faces inches apart. "Maybe it's time we did." For a moment, everything else seemed to fade away. The mission, the crew, the planet outside. There was only Zara, standing before him, her eyes filled with something he hadn't expected but now couldn't deny. Before he could speak again, the intercom buzzed, interrupting the moment. "Commander Carter, Dr. Zara, we've detected an anomaly on the planet's surface. It's urgent. Please report to the control deck immediately." Zara let out a soft sigh, and John couldn't help but chuckle lightly. "Guess the mission never really stops, does it?" Zara smiled, the moment slipping away as quickly as it had come. "No, it doesn't." As they made their way to the control deck, the weight of their unspoken connection still lingered between them. The moment had passed, but John knew that whatever happened next, the bond between him and Zara had changed. They were no longer just colleagues. They were partners in this mission, and perhaps in something more. As they reached the control deck, the rest of the crew was already gathered around the monitors, analyzing the new anomaly. John and Zara quickly took their places, their focus shifting back to the task at hand. But even as they worked, the unspoken connection between them remained, a quiet understanding that would continue to shape their journey forward. The anomaly on the planet's surface was unlike anything the crew had seen before. As John and Zara stepped into the control deck, the air was thick with the tension of the unknown. The entire crew was gathered around the monitors, their faces illuminated by the glow of data streams and charts. The anomaly was marked by a strange, pulsating light, which seemed to flicker in a pattern that defied any explanation they could offer. "Commander, Dr. Zara, you need to see this," one of the engineers called out, his voice filled with urgency. John and Zara moved swiftly to his side. The screen showed a map of the planet's surface with a pinpoint of light at the southern pole, where they had earlier detected the disturbance. "It's expanding," Zara said, her voice filled with concern. "The energy signature is growing more intense. If we don't intervene soon, it could destabilize the entire region." John's heart raced. "What's causing it?" he asked, though he already feared the answer. "We're not sure," the engineer replied. "It's as if something is awakening down there." John's mind raced with possibilities. The device they had discovered earlier could be the source of the anomaly, or perhaps there was something even older buried beneath the surface. Whatever it was, they had to act fast. "Get me a team ready to investigate," John said, turning to Zara. "We need to go to the epicenter." "Now," Zara nodded, her face set with determination. "I'll prepare the necessary equipment. We're going to need extra gear. The energy levels down there are unlike anything we've encountered before." As they geared up for the mission, the atmosphere on the station grew tense. The crew knew that whatever awaited them on the planet's surface was dangerous, but they had no choice. They had to find out what was happening. With their suits secured and all systems checked, John and Zara led the team to the transport ship, their minds focused on the task ahead. As they descended to the planet's surface, the energy readings grew stronger, and the flickering light from the anomaly grew brighter in the distance. The planet's terrain was more treacherous now. Cracks in the ground seemed to widen with each passing minute, as if the planet itself were responding to the disturbance. "Stay alert," John ordered as the team navigated the jagged terrain. "We don't know what we're dealing with." Zara walked beside him, her usual calm demeanor never wavering. She scanned the area with her portable device, trying to pinpoint the exact source of the energy. As they approached the epicenter, the ground began to vibrate beneath their feet. "It's coming from directly below us," Zara said, her voice tense. "This is it. We need to prepare for anything." They stopped at the edge of a massive fissure that had opened up in the ground. The light from the anomaly pulsed from deep within the crack, growing brighter by the second. John felt a chill run down his spine. "We need to get to the bottom of this. Let's move." The team descended into the fissure, their lights cutting through the dark, alien rock. As they reached the bottom, the source of the anomaly became clear. There, buried in the center of the fissure, was a massive, alien structure. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. A giant, pulsating core of energy, surrounded by strange markings that seemed to glow with an unnatural light. "What is this?" John asked, his voice filled with awe and fear. Zara stepped closer, her eyes wide with recognition. "This is it. This is what's been causing the energy fluctuations. It's a power source, but not like anything I've studied before. This technology is ancient. It's alive." John's heart skipped a beat. "Alive?" Zara nodded, her expression serious. "Yes, alive. This thing is more than just a machine. It's something else, something that was never meant to be disturbed." As Zara moved closer to examine it, the ground beneath them shook violently. The pulsating energy from the core grew stronger, and the entire structure began to hum with a deafening intensity. "We need to get out of here," one of the crew members shouted. But before they could react, the light from the core flared blindingly, engulfing them in a brilliant flash. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, Zara's voice broke through the stillness. "John, look." She pointed to the glowing symbols on the core. The symbols were shifting, rearranging themselves before their eyes, as if the structure was communicating. "It's trying to tell us something," Zara whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "It's sending a message." As they stood there, staring at the alien technology, John realized that their discovery had just become much more significant than they could have ever imagined. Whatever this was, it was not just a relic. It was a message from an ancient civilization, one that had been long forgotten. And now, it was up to them to uncover its meaning. But as they turned to leave, the ground trembled once more, and the energy surged to an even higher level. Whatever message the structure was sending, it was clear that they had awoken something powerful, something that might change everything.